Hi guys, this is Paul lnternet for Poker Market's Hand of the Day, and today I have something interesting for you. This hand was posted on the 2+2 forums by Lefu, and we'll not look at the reads right now, we'll just look at the hands on its own. So what we'll find is there is a button playing 200 something big blinds deep, but hero only has 102, so that's the relevant effective stack size here. And the button open raises to 2.5 big blinds, and hero finds himself with red pocket fours in the small blind. At this point we already have a pretty interesting decision. Some people would just fold this, which is completely reasonable. Some people would 3-bet it as hero does here, which is completely reasonable, and perhaps other people would call it, which is also reasonable. So everything works. What I would look for is information on the button on the big blind to determine which play is best here. If you're playing massive, if you're a massive multi-tabling guy, would you recommend just folding? But other options are reasonable. And the information supplied here now states we have a 46% open on the button, and folds 58% to 3-bets. And with this high fold to 3-bet, we're certainly ideal 3-betting here, I believe. So we're going to look at what happens afterwards. The big blind does not decide to cold 4-bet, which is very good for us. And the button also decides not to 4-bet, which is also good for us. So with our pocket fours, we head into an ace-3 5 flop. Very good flop for us, as we have the gut shot and a little bit backup. I think pocket fours should be very clearly best as a c-bet here, so very much like Hero's decision to c-bet here. If we check, we're giving a lot of free cards. It could just go check. The opponent has a hand like 10-9 of spades, and he gets 6 outs where he improves against us, whereas if he would just bet the flop, the guy would fold. So I think betting here is pretty much the only option. In terms of sizing, just standard half pot type sizing and 3-bet pot. Which is good. The turn card brings a 7 of hearts, which gives us a second gut shot to the 6 and a very low flush draw, although the 6 in hearts actually gives us the best possible flush. Well, I guess technically there's 9-8, but you know. So we have 8 weak flush out and 1 very strong flush out. So at this point we have very, very high equity. However, the question is, what is the best way to play it? It's certainly not a value bet, but what is it, maybe better to check call or to check raise? I think we can just go over the options and eliminate them. That's probably the easiest way to find a good play here. So what about check folding the turn, first option? Well, that's a really bad option, as we have double gut shot, flush draw, and a pair, which is just too strong to check fold. Then the next option is check raise all in, which is also really a bad option, because if we check raise and our opponent does call the all-in, he's very likely to have a hand which is the ace of hearts, which contains the ace of hearts, or it's just a flush with 2 hearts. And in this case, all our equity stemming from the hearts is pretty much negated. Against the flushes, all our equity from straights and flushes is as well. So equity, if called on an all-in, is very, very low, so it's not a good check-raise bluffing hand. Which leaves check call or betting. I think for check call the hand is actually too weak. Of course, it will depend how big the button bets. If the button bets very small size, we have an easy check call. But assuming the button bets a reasonable half pot to pot size bet, somewhere in between that, I think we may actually not be strong enough to check call. So that leaves only one good option, which I haven't discarded yet, and that is the option of 2-barreling. And so I very much like this play. I think it's more or less the only clearly good option here. Not saying other moves are bad, but this is certainly the preferred course of action here, where we do retain our equity. If called, we are doing good against a lot of ace-x hands, but of course we also have good fold equity. Then we move forward to the river after the button is called. And the river is a 5 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, which is more or less a blank card. Improves a little bit ace-5 and counterfeits ace-3, but it's reasonably blank. And here decides to take his hand and go all in here. So in this case we have to ask, what are the hands the opponent folds? What are the hands the opponent calls? And in how far does pocket fours affect those ranges? So is it a good blocker hand for bluffing? Is it a good blocker hand for not bluffing? Given we have a heart, generally when there's a 3 heart board, or a 3 flush board, if we're bluffing off a big amount of money, we always want to have one of those flush cards for blocker effects. So I think in this case having the 4 hearts is very important, and without it this would be a really bad move. But I still think this is a bad move because the 4 of hearts is just too bad here. So if we think about what our opponent will call us with on the river, it will be every full house that's possible, you know, pocket 3s, pocket 7s, pocket 5s, ace 5, and then every flush that is possible, and then a few more hands such as ace of hearts with you know, a kicker where he decides to bluff catch the river, and that's going to be more or less our opponent's river calling range. And having the 4 of hearts actually blocks very little of that. We think about how many hearts that 2 heart hands the opponent has with a 4 in it. It's only really ace 4 of hearts and not much more, because the 5-4 isn't possible, the 6 is impossible anyway. I suppose he might be calling 3 bets with the 6-4, but based on our pre-flop reads, I also don't think is very likely. The same thing goes for king 4 suited of hearts, which again, given the pre-flop stats, I don't think we block here, as it wouldn't be in his range anyway. So we actually only block one of the hands which are going to be calling, one combo, which means it's actually better to bluff the river with a hand like king 3, where we block 2 combos of set of 3s, than pocket 4s with the 4 hearts here. So I think it's a very bad blocker hand, and we should only bluff here if we have a good heart or a pair, or possibly both if we have some offsuit hands which are of that nature. Perhaps, I'm not saying we should 3-bet that, but a hand I would like for bluffing here would be a 7-6 offsuit with a 6 of hearts, where we do have a little heart blocker, we do have the little full house blocker, so something like that would be very reasonable. So I do think the river bluff here is a little bit too loose, and Hero got carried away with the nice hand he had on the turn, just pushing the river here.